stop. If you're over 60 and still walking like you did in your 30s, you're literally grinding your knee joints into dust with every single step. And the scariest part? You probably have no idea you're doing it. Look, I'm going to be brutally honest with you. Last month, a 67-year-old woman named Margaret walked into my clinic. Active, healthy, walked every single morning for exercise. She was doing everything right, or so she thought. 6 months earlier, she'd started noticing this weird clicking sound in her knees. Then came the stiffness, then the pain. By the time she came to see me, she could barely make it up a flight of stairs without wincing. Here's the kicker. After examining her and watching her walk for just 30 seconds, I knew exactly what was wrong. And it had nothing to do with her age, her weight, or bad genetics. Margaret was making the same 5 walking mistakes I see in my clinic every single day. Mistakes that are completely destroying the knees of active seniors all across the country. And honestly, most doctors won't even tell you about these because they assume you already know how to walk properly. But here's what they're not telling you. By the end of this video, you'll identify the 5 silent knee killers sabotaging your joints, and I'm going to give you a simple, instant correction for each one. This is your roadmap to walking pain-free into your 80s and 90s without surgery. I've been treating knees for over 15 years, and I can tell you, avoiding a knee replacement often comes down to fixing these specific mechanics. Because remember, once that cartilage is gone, it's gone forever. So let's stop the damage right now. We'll start with mistake number 1. It is the most common error active seniors make, and it happens the exact moment your heel touches the ground.
Okay, mistake number 1 is what I call the concrete crusher. And this one alone is probably responsible for more knee damage than the other 4 combined. Here's what's happening. You're landing on your heels way too hard, every single step. Now, I know what you're thinking, but I've always walked heel to toe. That's how everyone walks. And you're right, heel to toe is normal. But here's the problem. When you're younger, your muscles, tendons, and cartilage can absorb that shock. But after 60, everything changes. Your cartilage starts thinning, your shock absorption decreases, and suddenly, every hard heel strike is sending a shock wave directly into your knee joint. Think about it like this. Imagine taking a hammer and tapping it gently on a piece of glass. No problem, right? But now imagine doing that same tap 10,000 times. Eventually, that glass is going to crack. That's exactly what's happening to your knees when you're pounding the pavement with hard heel strikes. The impact force can be up to 3 times your body weight with every step. If you weigh 150 pounds, that's 450 pounds of force hammering into your knee joints, over and over, day after day. Margaret was doing this. She put on her walking shoes every morning, head out for her 3-mile walk, and basically spend an hour beating up her knees without realizing it. So here's the fix, and this is super important. You need to soften your landing. Instead of slamming your heel down like you're trying to crack the concrete, focus on what I call a rolling landing. Your heel should kiss the ground first, then quickly roll through to your midfoot and toes. It should feel smooth, almost like you're walking on eggshells you don't want to break. Here's a quick test you can do right now. Go walk around your house and listen to your footsteps. If you sound like a herd of elephants, you're landing too hard. If you can barely hear yourself, you're doing it right. And one more thing about this. The slower you walk, the harder you tend to heel strike. So don't shuffle along at a snail's pace. Keep a comfortable, natural rhythm. That'll help too. Now, let me tell you about mistake number 2, because this one's even sneakier. Mistake number 2 is what I call the straight leg syndrome. Here's what I mean. When your foot hits the ground, is your knee slightly bent or is it completely locked out straight? Because if it's locked out, you're basically turning your leg into a rigid pole that's transferring all that impact force directly into your knee joint with zero cushioning. Your knee is supposed to act like a shock absorber, but it can only do that job if it's slightly flexed when your foot makes contact with the ground. When you walk with locked out knees, you're basically bypassing all that natural shock absorption your body is designed to provide. This is huge, and most people have no clue they're doing it. I had Margaret walk down my hallway again, and sure enough, her knees were locking out with every step. She looked almost robotic. No bend, no flex, no give. Just rigid legs hammering into the ground. Why does this happen? Usually it's because your quadriceps muscles, the big muscles on the front of your thighs, have gotten weak. When those muscles are strong, they keep your knee slightly bent and controlled throughout your walking stride. When they're weak, your knee just collapses into that locked out position because it's easier. The fix? Two things. First, you need to consciously think about keeping a soft knee when you walk. Imagine there's a $100 bill under your knee that you're trying to hold in place. That slight bend you need to keep it there, that's your soft knee position. And second, you need to strengthen those quads. And before you roll your eyes thinking I'm about to tell you to do a bunch of complicated exercises, relax. The simplest way to do this is just to practice sitting down and standing up from a chair without using your hands. Do 10 times, 3 times a day. That's it. Your quads will get stronger and your walking will improve automatically. Now here's where it gets really interesting, because mistake number 3 is the one that surprised Margaret the most. Before we delve into that, please hit that like button so this video gets more visibility. You might be saving a life unknowingly. Mistake number 3 is what I call the dead foot walking. Okay, so here's what I mean by this. Your foot is 26 bones and 33 joints. It's designed to be dynamic, springy, and responsive. But most seniors walk like their feet are solid blocks of wood. No flex, no spring, no life. Watch a healthy kid run and play. Their feet are constantly moving, flexing, gripping the ground. Now watch the average 70-year-old walk. Their feet are basically just flat platforms they're shuffling forward. All the movement comes from their hips and knees. The feet themselves? Dead. This is a massive problem because your foot is supposed to be your first line of defense against impact. When you land on a healthy, active foot, it naturally spreads out, flexes, and absorbs shock before that force ever reaches your knee. But when you're walking on dead feet, all that shock goes straight up into your joints. Think about it like this. Imagine taking a hammer and tapping it gently on a piece of glass. No problem, right? But now imagine doing that same tap 10,000 times. Eventually, that glass is going to crack. That's exactly what's happening to your knees when you're pounding the pavement with hard heel strikes. The impact force can be up to 3 times your body weight with every step. If you weigh 150 pounds, that's 450 pounds of force hammering into your knee joints, over and over, day after day. Margaret was doing this. She put on her walking shoes every morning, head out for her 3-mile walk, and basically spend an hour beating up her knees without realizing it. So here's the fix, and this is super important. Start spending more time barefoot at home. I'm serious. Walk around your house without shoes or socks whenever it's safe to do so. This wakes up all those tiny muscles and nerves in your feet. And when you do wear shoes, choose ones with less cushioning. I'm not saying go run a marathon in minimalist shoes tomorrow, but for your daily walking, look for shoes with a thinner, more flexible sole. Your feet need to feel the ground to work properly. And here's a quick exercise you can do right now. Stand on one foot and try to spread your toes apart as wide as possible. Hold for 10 seconds, then switch feet. Do this every day. It'll activate all those dormant foot muscles and bring your feet back to life. Now, before we get to mistake number 4, let me tell you something important. Margaret came back to my office 6 weeks after making these 3 changes, and she couldn't believe the difference. The clicking in her knees had stopped. The morning stiffness was gone. She'd started walking upstairs without even thinking about it. And here's the crazy part. She didn't lose weight. She didn't start taking any supplements or medications. She didn't do anything except fix how she was walking. But she still had 2 more mistakes to fix. And honestly, these next 2 are the ones that most people get wrong because they seem so counterintuitive. Mistake number 4 is what I call the short stride shuffle. Now you'd think taking shorter steps would be better for your knees, right? Less stress, less impact, less strain. Makes sense. Wrong. When you take tiny, shuffling steps, you're actually putting more stress on your knees because you're not using your hips properly. Your hips are these massive, powerful joints designed to do the heavy lifting when you walk. But when you shuffle along with little steps, your hips barely move. All the work falls on your knees instead. Think of it like this. Imagine you're trying to move a heavy box across a room. Would you take tiny little baby steps, or would you take nice, confident strides? The baby steps would be way harder on your back, right? Same principle applies to your knees. Here's what happens with short strides. Your knee has to bend and straighten way more frequently to cover the same distance. More bending equals more friction equals more wear and tear on your cartilage. Plus, short steps usually mean you're shuffling your feet instead of picking them up properly, which creates even more stress. Margaret was doing this too. She'd been told by some well-meaning friend that taking smaller steps would protect her knees. So she'd been walking around like she was trying to sneak through a sleeping person's bedroom. Tiny, quiet, shuffling steps. The fix for this one is simple, but takes a bit of practice. You want to take longer strides, but not crazy long. Your stride length should be comfortable and natural. Here's a good test. When your foot lands in front of you, your knee should be just about over your ankle. If your foot is landing way out in front of you, that's overstriding, and that's bad too. But if your foot is barely clearing your other foot, you're understriding. And here's the key. The power should come from pushing off with your back foot, not from reaching forward with your front foot. Think of propelling yourself forward from behind, not pulling yourself forward from the front. Practice this by walking along a line on the ground, like a crack in the sidewalk. Try to make each step land about 1 foot length in front of the other. That's usually about right for most people. Now, are you ready for mistake number 5? Because this is the one that nobody talks about, but it might be the most important of all. Mistake number 5 is what I call the flat walk. Here's what I mean by this. When you walk, are you walking on flat, even surfaces all the time? Sidewalks, tracks, treadmills, shopping mall floors? Because if you are, you're creating a huge problem for your knees without even realizing it. Your knee joint is designed to move in multiple directions and handle varied terrain. But when you only walk on perfectly flat, even surfaces, you're only using your knees in one repetitive pattern, over and over. Same angle, same motion, same stress points on your cartilage. It's like if you only ever bent your elbow to exactly 90 degrees and never any other angle. Eventually, that one spot would wear out while the rest of your joint stayed healthy. Varied terrain is crucial for knee health. When you walk on grass, gravel, hills, or uneven terrain, your knee has to constantly adjust and adapt. This distributes the wear and tear on your entire joint instead of concentrating it in one spot. Plus, it strengthens all the little stabilizer muscles around your
knee that protect the joint. But here's the problem. Most seniors actively avoid uneven terrain because they're worried about falling. So they stick to nice, flat, predictable surfaces. And over time, their knees get weaker and more damaged from the repetitive stress. So what's the solution? Start incorporating varied terrain into your walks, but do it safely and gradually. Walk on grass when you can. Find a gentle hill to walk up and down. If you're at the park, take the dirt path instead of the paved one. And here's a big one. Stairs. Don't avoid stairs. Use them. Going up and down stairs is one of the best things you can do for your knees because it forces your joint to move through a complete range of motion while building strength at the same time. Start small. If you're nervous about uneven ground, walk with a friend or use walking poles for extra stability. But don't spend the rest of your life on treadmills and sidewalks. Your knees need variety to stay healthy. Margaret fixed all 5 of these mistakes over the course of about 2 months. She softened her heel strikes, kept her knees slightly bent, activated her feet, lengthened her stride, and started walking on varied terrain. 3 months after our first appointment, she came back for a follow-up. She just finished a 10-mile charity walk. No pain, no clicking, no stiffness. She felt like she had her old knees back. And the best part? She didn't need any surgery, any injections, or any expensive treatments. She just needed to fix how she was walking.
Look, your knees are meant to last you a lifetime, but only if you take care of them properly. These 5 walking mistakes are silently destroying the knee joints of millions of active seniors, and most people have no idea until the damage is already done. So here's what I want you to do right now. Get up and take a walk around your house. Pay attention to how you're landing, whether your knees are locked, how your feet feel, the length of your stride, and the surface you're on. I guarantee you're making at least 2 or 3 of these mistakes. And if you want to know the 3 specific strengthening exercises I had Margaret do that accelerated her recovery even faster, I'm breaking those down in my next video, along with the exact shoe recommendations I give all my patients. Trust me, you don't want to miss that because one of those exercises only takes 60 seconds and it completely changed everything for her. Hit that subscribe button right now so you don't miss it. And drop a comment below telling me which of these 5 mistakes you're guilty of. I read every single comment and I'll respond to your questions. Remember, it's not about walking more. It's about walking smarter. Fix these 5 mistakes and your knees will thank you for the next 30 years. Now, get out there and walk the right way. I'll see you in the next video.